Odyssey is about Odysseus' journey home after the Trojan War. Odysseus is the king of Ithaca. After Odysseus and the other Greek laid siege to the city of Troy, which lasted for 10 years, Odysseus and his men get back their ships and started their trip home to Ithaca, a rocky little island of the Greek mainland where Odysseus' wife and son are waiting for his return. Along the way, Odysseus and his men encountered several perilous obstacles, which caused Odysseus to leave all his men. Because Odysseus is intelligent and cunning, he was able to survive. Odysseus is stuck on an island in the middle of the sea, in the house of nymph named Calypso. Calypso won't let Odysseus live, but even if Odysseus could live, Poseidon keeps sending Odysseus off course as he tries to make it home. Poseidon is mad at Odysseus because Odysseus blinded his son, the Cyclops named Polyphemus. Zeus and Athena were discussing Odysseus' fate. Athena says of Zeus and all the other gods agree Odysseus should be allowed to live. Then Poseidon can't really argue since he is outnumbered. The gods sent Hermes to tell Calypso to let Odysseus live, and in the meantime, Athena will visit Odysseus' son named Telemachus. Athena disguises herself as a man and goes to Odysseus' home in Ithaca. When disguised Athena met Telemachus, he did not suspect anything and invites her for some food and wine. Though he figures out after a little while that the stranger is really Athena. Telemachus laments that he will never see his father again and complains about all the nobles from nearby islands who are courting his mother since everyone assumes Odysseus is already dead. His mother, Queen Penelope, doesn't want to marry someone else, but she doesn't want to tell her suitors either. So they just hang around Odysseus' house all day and eat all the food. Athena told Telemachus that Odysseus will soon return and advised Telemachus to gather all the suitors in the morning and order them to leave, and told him that she should get a ship ready to visit King Nestor in Pylos and King Menelaus in Sparta. Athena advised that if Telemachus hear from one of the kings that Odysseus is alive, then he should wait for another year for Odysseus' return. But if he learns that Odysseus is dead, he should make a grave for him and gave his mother to one of the suitors. Telemachus gathered the nobles like Athena suggested. He gets up and said that not only he has lost his father, but now the suitors are eating all the family's food and drinking all the wine. One of the suitors, named Antinous, said that Telemachus has no right to be upset, but it's his mother, Penelope, who's to blame. She's been leading all the suitors on for 4 years and saying that she will one day choose one to marry as soon as she finishes weaving a burial shroud for Odysseus' father named Laertes. Antinous said that they saw Penelope weaves that shroud each day but unravels her work at night. Telemachus says he'll never force his mother to choose a husband and leave their house. He announces his plan to see what news he can find out Odysseus in Sparta and Pylos.
Athena helped Telemachus to get a ship and crew together, and she disguised herself as an old friend of Odysseus named Mentor. When they arrive at the kingdom of Pylos, they meet King Nestor, who fought at Troy with Odysseus. Nestor says he hasn't seen or heard from Odysseus since just after they have left Troy. King Nestor agrees to help Telemachus to get to Sparta to talk to King Menelaus. Telemachus takes chariot as a mode of transport alongside Nestor's son named Pisistratus to Sparta. In Sparta, a big wedding feast is underway as they arrive, and they join King Menelaus for some food and wine. As King Menelaus and Telemachus are talking, King Menelaus' wife named Helen recognized Telemachus as Odysseus' son. Helen tells the story of how during the Trojan War, Odysseus dressed up as a beggar and snuck into Troy to gather information to take back to the Greeks. After the feast, Helen orders the servant to prepare bed for Telemachus and Pisistratus. The next morning, King Menelaus tells Telemachus that the last news he heard of Odysseus is that he got stranded on a small island off the coast of Egypt. King Menelaus also added that when Odysseus left Troy, he didn't make proper sacrifices to the gods, so the gods marooned him in a little island called Pharos. King Menelaus tells Telemachus a story when he and his men were running out of food when he met a goddess named Eidothea, who was the daughter of Proteus. The goddess told Menelaus if he could pin and hold Proteus, Proteus would answer any question he had. With Eidothea's help, Menelaus and his men snuck up on Proteus, and as soon as he fell asleep, Menelaus jumped on him. Proteus transformed into different things to get out of Menelaus' grip, but Proteus couldn't get out of Menelaus' tight squeeze until he tried out. The first question King Menelaus asked to Proteus is what happened to his Greek comrades, and Proteus answered everything in his knowledge. Proteus told to King Menelaus that he saw a vision of Odysseus on an island, crying in the house of nymph named Calypso. Calypso is keeping him there by force, and Odysseus don't have any means of getting away. And that was the last King Menelaus heard of Odysseus. Meanwhile, two Penelope's suitor Antinous and Eurymachus come up with a plot to kill Telemachus when he returns. They decided to wait with the ship and ambush him, but the herald overhears the scheme and tells Penelope about it. Queen Penelope prays to Athena to save Telemachus, and Athena hears her. Zeus and Athena compromise and agree that Odysseus can go home, but that he'll have to suffer more along the way. Zeus sent Hermes to get Calypso the news. Calypso found Odysseus sitting by the shore and crying. He hardly believes at first that he's being allowed to live, and he makes promise that it's not some scheme to harm him. Calypso swears an oath, and they go back to Calypso cave.
Zeus and Athena, observing Odysseus' plight on Calypso's island, agreed to intervene and allow him to leave. They dispatched Hermes to deliver the message to Calypso, marking the beginning of Odysseus' journey back home. Determined to return home, Odysseus constructs a ship on Calypso's island and sets sail. For 18 days, the journey progresses smoothly, offering a glimmer of hope for Odysseus' return to Ithaca. Despite Odysseus' progress, Poseidon's wrath is ignited by his son Polyphemus' blinding. In a display of divine fury, Poseidon conjures a storm that devastates Odysseus' ship, leaving him stranded at sea for 3 harrowing days. Shipwrecked and naked, Odysseus washes ashore on the island of Scheria. There, he encounters Princess Nausicaa, who extends hospitality and assistance to the weary traveler, setting the stage for Odysseus' introduction to the Phaeacians. King Alcinous and Queen Arete welcome Odysseus to their palace with warmth and generosity. They listen attentively to his tale of trials and tribulations, offering refuge and support as Odysseus recounts his epic journey. Odysseus recounts the legendary tale of the Trojan War, detailing the cunning strategies employed by the Greeks, including the construction of the infamous Trojan horse. He highlights his own pivotal role in the Greek victory, setting the stage for his subsequent adventures. Odysseus narrates the myriad of challenges he faces on his long voyage back to Ithaca, from encounters with the Lotus Eaters to the menacing Cyclops Polyphemus and the treacherous Lastygronians. Each obstacle tests Odysseus' resilience and resourcefulness as he strives to overcome the perils of the sea. Notable in his exploits is his encounter with the Cyclops Polyphemus, who, after being tricked and blinded by Odysseus, prays to his father Poseidon, which begins the sea god's grudge against him. Odysseus recounts his harrowing encounter with the savage giants known as the Laestrygonians, who unleash a brutal assault on his fleet, resulting in the destruction of his ships and the loss of many of his men.
In a solemn ritual, Odysseus and his men honor the request of their fallen comrade, Elpenor, by burning his body back on Circe's island. They receive warnings of impending dangers on their homeward journey, foreshadowing the trials yet to come. On the island of Helios, Odysseus and his men succumb to hunger and temptation, slaughtering the sacred cattle of the sun god. Zeus responds with a swift and devastating punishment, sending a cataclysmic storm that annihilates the remaining ships and crew when they finally leave the island. This then results to Odysseus getting stranded on Calypso Island. Having heard Odysseus' story, King Alcinous orders his men to take Odysseus back home to Ithaca. After enduring countless trials and tribulations, Odysseus finally reaches the shore of Ithaca, his homeland. Exhausted yet determined, Odysseus prepares to confront the challenges awaiting him as he embarks on the next chapter of his Odyssey. Odysseus recalls his transformative encounter with the enchantress Circe, who turns his men into swine. Through cunning and divine aid from Hermes, Odysseus breaks Circe's spell and secures her oath of non-harm, ultimately restoring his crew to their human forms. After a year of living alongside Circe, they decide to leave, but not before she tells Odysseus to seek Tiresias in the underworld. Odysseus delves into the realm of the dead, seeking guidance from the ghost of Tiresias. Following Circe's instructions, he kills two sheep and pours their blood into a trench. This summons thousands of ghosts, wishing to quench their thirst. Among them is Elpenor, one of Odysseus' men, who asked him to give him an honorable burial. Tiresias then imparts crucial advice on navigating the perils of the journey home and appeasing Poseidon's wrath. With courage and caution, Odysseus and his men confront the seductive allure of siren song. By plugging their ears with wax and biting Odysseus to the mast, they successfully navigate this perilous temptation. Odysseus steers his ship through the narrow strait guarded by monstrous Scylla and the whirlpool Charybdis. Despite the loss of his 6 men to Scylla's ravenous jaw, Odysseus' strategic prowess enables the survival of the majority of his crew.
Before sailing out, Odysseus fell asleep and woke up with his baggage on the shore. He did not recognize Ithaca at first and was afraid to be tricked once again. He met Athena, but in a different form, a shepherd boy, and the boy told him where he was. Odysseus becomes emotional knowing he's finally home, but gets back his guard on again and hides his identity from the boy. He did not recognize Athena, that's why. He told the shepherd boy a lie about killing someone and becoming a fugitive. Athena shows her true identity, from being a shepherd boy to being herself once again. She told him she'll help him get home, so he must help her back by killing her suitors. She transformed Odysseus into an unrecognizable one and told him to go and find her servant, while she would go to Sparta and reveal the ambush planned by her suitors to his son. Eumaeus did not recognize Odysseus because of his form. Odysseus talks a lot about how he misses his master and tells Eumaeus a lie about himself being a servant of sailors for a very long time. Athena told his son Telemachus about the ambush planned by his suitors and urged him to go back at once to Ithaca and spend the night at the swineherd of Eumaeus. Telemachus met Eumaeus with his father there but did not recognize him, as Odysseus is still in unrecognized beggar form. Athena returns Odysseus' form when Eumaeus is out of the picture. Odysseus revealed himself to his son but had a hard time convincing him. However, Telemachus got convinced and they had a tearful reunion. Meanwhile, Telemachus told his father information about Athena's suitors and plotted revenge for them. Suitors were gathered in the palace of Odysseus to have dinner. They saw Telemachus meeting his mother, which made them realize that he had passed the ambush. Meanwhile, Odysseus, in his unrecognizable form, got into a lot of trouble with the suitors because of him begging for some scraps. Before the night ends, Odysseus told his son to lock up the suitors' weapons in the palace so that when he takes his revenge, they will be defenseless.
Penelope sits down with the stranger, eager for updates about Odysseus. The stranger makes up a narrative about encountering Odysseus, claiming to have seen him at his residence during his journey and asserting that Odysseus was seen recently, and he knows Odysseus is on his way home. The next day, while they're eating and drinking, Penelope announces she has chosen a man to marry and proposes a contest to determine who will be her husband. Each suitor must string Odysseus' bow and shoot an arrow to 12 axes. Despite attempts, none are strong enough to string the bow. Odysseus asks for a turn. The suitors object at first, but they finally give in. Odysseus strings the bow with ease, and he fires an arrow straight through all the 12 axe handles without warning. Odysseus leaps up and shoots the suitor Antonius through the throat, then reveals to the suitors who he is. Chaos spreads throughout the hall as Odysseus systematically eliminates them one by one. He instructs Telemachus along with a swineherd and a cowherd who showed kindness to him to retrieve armor and weapons from the storeroom. Returning with the gear, the men find that a suitor has managed to slip out through a smoke duct and bring back equipment for the others. A fierce battle ensues, with Odysseus, Telemachus, and Eumaeus, and the cowherd fighting until they have vanquished all the suitors. Once the suitors lie dead, Odysseus orders Eurycleia to gather the unfaithful servant women who were involved with them. He tasks them with cleaning the hall, and once their work is finished, Telemachus and the two herdsmen lead them outside to be executed. Eurycleia tells Penelope that Odysseus has returned, and Penelope goes downstairs and finds Odysseus in the great hall. She doesn't believe it's him at first. He looks like her husband, but it's been 20 years since she last saw him. She tests him by asking Eurycleia to bring the bed out of the bedroom in front of him. Odysseus picks up immediately, saying it's impossible to move the bed. He carved it himself from a large olive tree that grew out of the floor, and he built the walls out of the bedroom around it. Penelope is convinced. She runs to Odysseus and embraces him. She says she's worried that some impostor has come claiming to be her husband, but now he's home at last. Odysseus says he has to sail out once more to plant not far inland in order to appease Poseidon. But once that's done, they'll have peace. They go to bed, and Odysseus tells her everything he's been through. The next morning, Odysseus goes to see his father Laertes. Laertes doesn't recognize Odysseus at first, and Odysseus makes up another story calling himself Man of Strife. But eventually he reveals who he is, and his father hugged him while crying. They go inside and sit down to a feast with Telemachus and the herdsman, as well as some friends of Laertes. The families of the suitors have found out about the slaughter at Odysseus' palace, and they formed a mob to get revenge on Odysseus. They showed up at Laertes' farm and threatened Odysseus and the others. Athena shows up in the form of a mentor, and Laertes fears the leader of the mob through the head. All hell is about to break loose, but Athena stops everyone and commands them to be civil. The families leave, and Odysseus feels he has peace at last.